focusing on things that matter in our prayers. Today is day 5 of our 10 days of prayer. We are halfway our journey with God, focusing on things that matter in our prayers. In Matthew chapter 6, verse 9 and 10, Jesus taught his disciples how to pray. And these two verses say, "Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come. Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven." Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come. Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Friends, we pray so that God can answer our prayers. But do we really know what matters in our prayers for them to be pleasing to God? As we strengthen our prayer life these 10 days, today we would like to look at what matters in our prayer. Could there be some redundant statements? Could there be redundant prayers? Could there be disgusting prayers to God? The devil has so many crafts, and he's also indulging in the prayers of God's children. What matters in your prayer, in our prayer, if it is going to be pleasing to God? This verse, as Jesus teaches his disciples, gives us an insight of what matters in our prayer. Many times when we are praying, we go to God to ask him for what we want, for what we need. And sometimes we have a list already that we have generated over time, and we want to tell our God that this is what we want. It is important for us to know who God is that we are here to talk to. When you go to somebody's office, the main thing you are looking at is, will he solve my problem? Is he the right person I should go to? Your first thing to do is to evaluate the one you are asking. Our Father in heaven was the first phrase that Jesus teaches his disciples to say in their prayer. Today, I will share with you what Moses said to God and what he asked God, how he recognized God. Many times, our prayers are about us and not about God. But before I go to Moses, I would also like us to see what we read in Isaiah, what a pleasant prayer is like. Isaiah 66 verse 2 says, "Has not my hand made all these things, and so they came into being, declares the Lord. These are the ones I look on with favor, those who are humble and contrite in spirit, and who tremble at my word." In Psalm 51 verse 17, we read, "My sacrifice, O God, is a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart. You, God, will not despise." As we come to God, it's expected of us that we know whom we are coming to. In fact, we are not telling God because he doesn't know what we need. In fact, we are not reminding God that our house rent is done. We are not reminding him that we have no job. We are not going to let him know that we have been looking for a spouse over the years and it is difficult to find. We are not telling a God that doesn't know. We come to a God that already knows. And for us to come in that knowledge is step one of our prayer being accepted. A humble spirit, a contrite heart, you, God, will not despise. So what matters in our prayers then? This teaching that Jesus gives his disciples really tells us that we need to recognize God in our prayer. We need to recognize his position in our lives. Just like you go to your father to ask for school fees, it doesn't mean your father doesn't know that you need school fees. You're not reminding him. You're simply recognizing him or her. And so what matters in our prayers is not the list of stuff we need, is the recognition of whom we have come to meet. And that's why in the presence of God, it's expected of us to be humble, to be pious, and to recognize in whose presence we are standing. That's why it is necessary also to know that when we go to pray, we respect the one we are going to speak to. If you are going to meet a permanent secretary or a minister or a president, you prepare how you want to go there. So what is sometimes important is not necessarily what you are going to say there, but the recognition of the person you're going to meet. Are you prepared to meet him or her? That's step one in our prayers being pleasant before God. A contrite heart, God will not despise. So what matters is not the eloquent prayers. It's not the length of your prayer. It's not even the frequency of your prayers, but recognizing who you are talking to. It shouldn't be about us, but rather about him. Exodus chapter 3, verse 11 to 18 has a very interesting conversation where Moses is communicating with God. Call it his prayer to God, because prayer is communication to God. So Exodus chapter 3, verse 11, Moses said to God, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?" And God said, "I will be with you, and this will be the sign to you that it is I who have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship God on this mountain." Take note of this. Moses is asking who he is. Who am I to go to the Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? God does not answer that question. God says, I will be with you. It doesn't matter who you are. It matters who I am. And as you see in verse 13, Moses said to God, suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, what is his name? Then what shall I tell them? Verse 14, God said to Moses, I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you. My brothers and my sisters listening, it is important to recognize God in our prayer. It is more important. It wasn't about Moses going to the Pharaoh. It was about God who goes with Moses. And he said, that is what you should tell them. Tell them, I am who I am. Verse 15, chapter 3 of Exodus. God also said to Moses, say to the Israelites, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has sent me to you. This is my name forever, the name you shall call me from generation to generation. Verse 16. Go assemble the elders of Israel and say to them, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, appeared to me and said, I have watched over you and have seen what has been done to you in Egypt. And I have promised to bring you up out of your misery in Egypt into the land of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, a land flowing with milk and honey. Verse 18. The elders of Israel will listen to you. Then you and the elders are to go to the king of Egypt and say to him, the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, has met with us. Let us take a 3-day journey into the wilderness to offer sacrifices to the Lord our God. It's about God. Never is it about us who have come to prayer. It's about God. For those of us that are really married, and those of you that are planning to get married, in our communication with our spouses, we should be out of the picture, and they should be. For example, and we learned this in a seminar for communication, effective communication in marriage. And the instructor told us that if for some reason your spouse is doing some stuff that you do not like, it's always, there is a thing to complain and let them know how they are doing it wrong. But she said, please let them know that you care about them. Your spouse comes home late every day. It will be more effective for you to say, I'm always worried about you when you stay out late. It breaks my heart. I'm worried about you and what could happen to you. That message could sink better than the message of saying, why are you always coming late? Don't you know that I'm here all by myself? It shouldn't be about you. It should be about God. So when we go to prayer, it's not about telling him what we need. It's not about the solving of our problems. It's about recognizing him who provides. Him who says that the earth and all that there is mine. What can we even tell him that we need? He already knows. Our recognition of him as our God is what matters. Like you go, and we know that our earthly kings will address them by being reverent. And the more we recognize them, the more they also see that they need to take care of their subjects. And so it is in our workplaces as well. The more you put your organization first, the more you put your boss first, the more he realizes that he has a duty to make you comfortable. But the more you bring a litany of complaints and expectations and entitlements, the more you become an issue. Our God mirrors our lives here on earth. We learn from him. When we recognize God in our lives and spend more time talking about him and his goodness, the more we are safe in his hands. So as we think about prayer and how to do effective prayer and deliver prayers that are pleasant to God, let us do more of talking about his name than talking about our needs. Our prayers must be God-centered and not self-centered. Once we understand that it is more important the relationship we have with God, then we have the right focus in prayer. Look at your own prayer. When you come to pray, what do you say to God? Do you start by explaining how you are so much in need? Or do you start by recognizing him in your life? If you were to measure the amount of time you spend talking about your need and the amount of time you spend talking about him as a God who created you in his own image, a God who has led you from your childhood to where you are right now, a God who has provided meals that you have had every day for all your life, a God who has delivered you as you move from one space to another, a God who has seen you through school, a God who takes you from place to place, a God who provides for your needs every day, a God who gives you the breath you use every day and you don't pay for. How much do you spend talking about him? I happen to be working in difficult areas, sometimes serving the most vulnerable. And one time, last year, I traveled to Somalia, I traveled to Ethiopia, and I traveled to Kenya to meet a people that have suffered, some for years, 4 years without rain and no food, and have lost everything, including their own bodies, emaciated to the extent that I couldn't even take their photographs. And I asked these women, and I asked them to rank their needs, because they have no food, because there has been no rain. They couldn't grow any crop, and not all of them can eat from the shore. They have no jobs. So they depend on the environment. And asked them to rank their needs. And so they ranked. Their need number 1 was water, not food, not medical health, not school for their children, not even anything to do with hygiene amenities, water. We've got to thank God for the water we have every day. You would never value how important it is to have water, and you can waste it anytime. But when you recognize the God that provides you with water, the God that provides you with the sunshine, the God that allows you to walk and not be hurt, the God who prevents you from being bitten by snakes, the God that provides for your needs. The more we recognize him in our lives, in our prayers, the more our prayers get answered. These 10 days of prayer, 10 days of prayer, should be days we are going to have more of Jesus and less of ourselves. Let's remember the first day we learned that less is more. The less you talk about your problems with God, the more you recognize him, and the more he is present with your prayer. We're not telling him what he doesn't know, so we don't need so much time to explain to him as if he didn't know. Our prayers must be God-centered. When we consciously think about God's character, his qualities, and what he's able to do, and we express that in adoration, in our own words, our prayers are filled with spiritual life. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. You are in charge of the universe. You are the God that has enabled us to live in peace. Other people live under war. Other people are refugees. We aren't. Other people cannot grow crops and they harvest anything. We are able. Other people are suffering from various diseases. Many lost their loved ones to COVID. Many have lost their loved ones to wars. Our people are safe. Many people are orphans before they are 20. We still have our parents at age 40. If we can recognize God in this frame of provision, the more our prayers are pleasant to him. We are so selfish in prayer. If we recognize God in our prayer, he will, as he is such a caring God, give us what we desire and much more. God bless you.